help me find my mom?
Your mom is down here?
I think so. I hope so.
No question. You've got the antibodies.
Thank you very much. Wait, what?
You could be the key to saving this world, Jake Mueller.
Save myself first.
I was scared. Those things were everywhere, and...
You should have called the police. That's what we taught you.
I did, but nobody came, and you didn't answer your phone, so...
Sherry, I don't have time for this.
Few characters in the Resident Evil series have undergone a transformation as profound, heartbreaking, or inspiring as Sherry Birkin. From a terrified, helpless, and neglected child caught in the nightmare of Raccoon City to a resilient, compassionate, and determined government agent fighting to save the world from the horrors that once shaped her life, Sherry's evolution is nothing short of remarkable. What sets Sherry apart is not just the passage of time, but the sheer magnitude of her growth. While other characters in Resident Evil age from adult to older adult, Sherry's leap from childhood to adulthood is a far greater transformation. It's one thing to evolve as a person over the years, but to go from a child, vulnerable and dependent, to an adult with the weight of responsibility on your shoulders is a whole other level. When we first meet Sherry, she's just a sweet, innocent girl trying to survive the nightmare around her. But when we see her again, she's no longer that child, forged by her past but not defined by it. Let's explore why Sherry Birkin's evolution stands above the rest. Her journey is not just about survival, but also about overcoming trauma and emerging stronger, both physically and emotionally. Her growth isn't merely a product of time. It's the result of unimaginable hardship, resilience, and hope. This is, to me at least, what makes her evolution the greatest in the Resident Evil universe. Sherry was born around 1986 into the world of Umbrella, the very company responsible for much of the suffering she would end up having to endure. Her parents, William and Annette Birkin, were brilliant scientists, but their dedication to their work, specifically the creation of the Golgotha virus, better known as the G-virus, meant to improve the human race, came at the cost of their relationship with their daughter. Forsaken, isolated, and often left to fend for herself emotionally, Sherry learned early on that she could only rely on herself. This neglect, paired with the terrifying environments she grew up in, initially the Arclay laboratory and later the Nest facility, shaped her ability to cope with stress and fear in ways most children her age wouldn't have developed. Even at a young age, Sherry demonstrated a quiet strength. She wasn't bitter or angry about her situation. Instead, she developed a remarkable ability to endure, to adapt, and to remain kind-hearted in a world that offered her very little kindness. It's a testament to her inner fortitude that despite being basically abandoned, she didn't lose her sense of empathy and compassion, clearly evidenced in a conversation she had right after meeting Claire. meaning that before they even got the bond, Sherry was already sweet and kind towards her.
Both of my parents are gone, and it's just me and my brother.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't be. It means we've got something in common, and that's a good thing, right?
This, more than anything, sets her apart from other characters who grew up in similarly harsh circumstances. While the series doesn't dive too deeply into her early years, what we do know is that Sherry's experience growing up in the shadow of Umbrella forced her to develop a maturity and self-reliance far beyond her years. And yet beneath that strength lies a tragic reality. A child who should have had the comfort and love of her family but was instead thrust into a world of monsters and experimentation. This contrast between the innocence of her childhood and the horrors she endured makes Sherry's later evolution all the more impactful. When we consider what she had to go through, it's clear that her ability to remain compassionate and hopeful is nothing short of exceptional. It's worth mentioning though that William and Annette did show concern for their daughter, but in a way that only highlights their cold detachment. She was a security risk, since she could serve as a gateway into the G-Virus for anyone that wanted to get their hands on it. So their concern for her was purely business. Another questionable gesture of their parental love was a locket Annette gave Sherry for her birthday. On the surface, this seemed like a loving gift from a mother to a daughter. In reality, the locket held a piece of Annette and William's research. Whether this was a sign of their complicated love for Sherry since they didn't trust her with something extremely valuable to them, or a twisted way to conceal a part of their work from prying eyes, is anyone's guess. Though ironically, the locket did end up putting her in danger. One thing is clear though, Sherry's upbringing was troubled to say the least, as was her relationship with her parents. Sherry's introduction to the world of Resident Evil came in Resident Evil 2, where she is a scared, vulnerable child caught in the terrifying chaos of Raccoon City. She was forced to leave her lessons at East Raccoon Elementary School and to seek refuge at the police station. In both the original RE2 and its remake, Sherry is placed in a situation no child should ever experience, fleeing from bioengineered monsters and abandoned by the very people who were supposed to protect her. In the original Resident Evil 2, Sherry's role is primarily to serve as the emotional core of Claire's story. Her innocence and vulnerability also drive both Leon and Claire to protect her, giving them something to live, fight, and survive for. Leon especially was saved by Sherry from himself. A dark and unexpected story you can learn more about by clicking one of the links in the description below and at the end of this video. In RE2, we see Sherry as a scared little girl, and much of her character is built around her helplessness. She's running from her mutated father who, in his monstrous state, known as G, relentlessly pursues her. While Sherry is a central figure, much of her character's agency is lost in the larger narrative of survival and chaos. However, the remake of RE2 gives Sherry a much more active role in her own story. She's no longer just a frightened child hiding behind Claire. The remake fleshes out her personality, showing us her resilience in a way that was only hinted at in the original. In one of the most harrowing sequences, Sherry is captured by Chief Irons, and we witness firsthand how she copes with terror and captivity. This entire sequence, while absolutely terrifying, also shows us Sherry's inner strength. She may be a child, but she doesn't give up. She fights back in the only way she can, through her wits, her courage, her quick thinking, and her determination to survive even against a far more realistic kind of horror. Choosing to put us, the player, in her shoes for such scary moments highlights how defenseless and vulnerable she truly is, and just how traumatizing and horrifying her experience in Raccoon City was. But it also exemplifies her resourcefulness, cleverness, and willingness to face impossible odds in order to live to see another day. All this despite her tender age. The remake also deepens her bond with Claire. Their relationship becomes more of a sisterly connection, fitting that someone searching for her older sibling gets to be one herself in the process. Claire acted as a protector for Sherry, but also as a source of emotional support. This bond is pivotal for Sherry's growth. Claire's unwavering kindness, affection, and protection give Sherry something she's never had before. A genuine connection with someone who truly cares about her well-being. It's clear that Claire's influence shapes Sherry into the woman she becomes, instilling in her a sense of compassion and duty that we get to see fully realized in a later game. Sherry's relationship with her mother, Annette, is also quite significant. Their bond is fraught with distance, neglect, and ultimately sacrifice. Annette was so consumed by her work at Umbrella that she failed to be the mother Sherry needed during her formative years. The result was a strained relationship, with Sherry often left to fend for herself, feeling forgotten in the shadow of the ambitions of her parents. In the Resident Evil 2 remake, however, this dynamic is explored with more emotional depth. While Annette is still largely absent in Sherry's life, the remake gives us a better understanding of Annette's internal struggle. She is a mother trapped by the consequences of her and William's actions, hell-bent on correcting and atoning for the sins they committed. And while she may seem cold, there are moments where her love for Sherry shines through, especially in the final act. As Sherry faces the horrific reality of her father's monstrous transformation, it's Annette who steps in to help save her, administering the antidote that saves Sherry from succumbing to the G-Virus. She even apologizes for the many ways she failed as a mother. This act of selflessness marks a turning point in their relationship. It's a moment where Annette, who had been so focused on her work, finally prioritizes her daughter's well-being above all else. Her decision to save Sherry is a final gesture of maternal love. And though it's bittersweet, it shows that deep down, Annette did care. For Sherry and us, it's a heartbreaking revelation, realizing far too late that her mother did love her, even if she didn't know how to show it until the very end. She finally got to be a mother to Sherry. This complex relationship between mother and daughter adds another layer to Sherry's emotional journey, giving her both the closure and the strength she needs to move forward.
She loved you, okay? You really gotta get going. Come on.
It's unfortunate, however, that William does not also get the chance to have such a powerful moment of parental love. leaving us, and presumably Sherry as well, to question if, like Annette, he also harbored some degree of love for his daughter beneath his obsession with Golgotha. While his relentless pursuit of her was born from an instinctive attraction to her due to their blood relation, which made her a suitable host for the G-Virus, perhaps there was some twisted feelings of love mixed in, especially considering that he does end up saving her more than once, though this could be on instinct as well. The emotional complexity added to Sherry's character in the remake elevates her from a side character to one of the most important figures in the Resident Evil universe. The game gives her more agency, more depth, and makes her growth all the more compelling. Not to mention that it makes us care about her more. It greatly endears her to us, making her a character we also want to shower with love and protection, elevating her role in this game and her eventual return. After the events of Raccoon City, Sherry disappears from the spotlight, but her life was far from peaceful. Taken in by the US government, Sherry became a ward of the very system that once exploited her parents. She was subjected to strict observation and testing due to her exposure to the G-Virus, forcing her to live in isolation once more. The weight of her past followed her, and though she was physically safe, emotionally she remained trapped, unable to move on from the horrors of her childhood. We don't know all the details of what Sherry endured during these years, but we can infer that it wasn't an easy time for her. The constant surveillance, the lack of personal freedom, and the knowledge that she was only valued for her unique biology must have been overwhelming for her. In fact, we know for sure it was.
Maybe it's your blood they should be testing for vaccines.
They already did. More than I can stand.
And yet, her spirit didn't break. These years of isolation and government control only made her stronger. It's clear that Sherry never allowed herself to be defined by her circumstances. Instead, she used them as motivation to become someone who could protect others from the horrors she herself endured. Something that would go on to affect her future profoundly. Since following the death of Albert Wesker, Sherry was finally granted freedom, but only if she became an agent in the fight against bioterrorism, an offer she readily accepted. It's worth mentioning too that Derek C. Simmons, who would go on to be a key antagonist in Resident Evil 6, and his team used Sherry to engineer the C-Virus, which would be pivotal in RE6, which is the game where we get to see Sherry next. Here, she's a fully grown woman who has not only survived but thrived. She successfully became a government agent, using her unique immunity to the G-Virus, which also grants her heightened regenerative abilities, as a tool to help her fight bioterrorism. Her decision to use her tragic past to fuel her future career speaks volumes about her character. She isn't content to be a victim of her circumstances. Instead, she actively works to prevent others from suffering the same fate she did. Her time in captivity, while painful, helped her realize her purpose. And it's this realization that shapes her role in Resident Evil 6, which is, ironically, to locate Jake Muller, the son of Albert Wesker, one of the people Sherry was put in protective custody to guard against. Her relationship with Jake reveals the most about her evolution. Jake and Sherry are, in many ways, reflections of each other. Both carry the weight of their parents' legacies. Sherry, the daughter of the creators of the G-Virus, and Jake, the son of one of the greatest masterminds behind Umbrella. Both are fighting against the sins of their fathers. But it's how they bond that truly highlights Sherry's growth. Her compassion and understanding help break through the walls Jake keeps around himself. She sees the humanity in him, just as Claire once saw the same in her. She fittingly becomes the Claire to his Sherry. Their journey together, especially moments like the scene in the snowy mountain cabin, shows how alike they are. Two people haunted by their pasts, yet determined not to let it define them. Speaking of the cabin scene, I think it might be my favorite Sherry moment in this game. Not only because she talks about her father in a tactful, somber way that I find very powerful and telling, since it reveals that she remembers him and what happened as a tragedy, as something sad, meaning she holds no remorse or animosity towards him or what he did. But also because she clearly states in this conversation how much she values Leon and Claire and what they did for her, and how they serve as inspiration for her.
My dad was a scientist. He was working on BOWs when I was exposed. Luckily, I was treated with the vaccine before it was too late. But the virus adjusted and adapted. It's been a part of me ever since.
What happened to your father?
His research killed him. By the time he died, his body had mutated so much, he wasn't even recognizable.
Sorry. I didn't mean to.
That's all right. Besides, I didn't walk out of it empty-handed.
Yeah, you got superpowers.
That's not what I meant. The people who saved me, Leon and Claire, are the closest friends I've ever had.
Claire is that BSAA guy's sister, right?
They risked their lives for me back in Raccoon City. I guess I'm still just trying to live up to their example. Never giving up, no matter the odds.
This scene perfectly sums up Sherry as a character. Compassionate, kind, shaped by her past but not defined by it for the better. The connection between Sherry and Jake is one of the most endearing and heartfelt relationships in the series, which makes their campaign one of my favorites in the game. Sherry's empathy allows Jake to lower his guard, something he rarely does, and he grows to truly care about her. Jake finds someone who truly understands what it means to live under the shadow of the actions of their parents, something that deeply haunts him.
You know anything about Albert Wesker?
What?
Take that as a yes. We talked about him a lot. I guess he had an antibody that could fight off any virus. Apparently, he abused his gift, took it for granted, and then ended up turning himself into some kind of monster. You know, I thought dear old Dad was just a deadbeat who skipped out on us. No, he was actually a freaking nut job who almost destroyed the world.
Your father's actions have nothing to do with you.
Yeah, but his blood does. It's the whole reason why we're even here. I mean, come on. You really think that crazy doesn't run in the family? That nothing of who my father was didn't somehow get passed on down to me? You of all people should know that's true. I'm just saying. The man that I am, the things that I've done, at least it all makes a little bit more sense now.
This mutual understanding is what makes their relationship so powerful. It's not romantic, though most of us wish it was. It's something deeper. It's the bond between two people who have seen the worst of humanity and have chosen to rise above it.
What?
You can blame your father all you want, but at some point, you have to take responsibility for your own actions.
Their relationship shows how far Sherry has come. from a frightened, dependent child to a capable, empathetic woman who can offer support and guidance to others who find themselves where she was mentally and emotionally all those years ago. Her growth in Resident Evil 6 isn't just about becoming stronger, it's about becoming more compassionate, more understanding. She takes the lessons she learned from Claire and applies them to her relationship with Jake, helping him find a reason to fight for something bigger than himself, to finally escape Wesker's legacy. It's a beautiful reflection of how Sherry's past experiences shaped her into the wonderful person she is today. Someone who can save those suffering like she did in the same way she was saved. Her reunion with Leon is also significant, not just for the characters, but also for the fans who have followed their stories from the very beginning. The last time Leon saw Sherry, she was a vulnerable little girl in the midst of one of the worst experiences of her life. Fast forward to Resident Evil 6 and they meet again under very different circumstances. Sherry is no longer a child in need of protection, but a fully grown, capable government agent in her own right. Their reunion showcases the incredible growth of both characters. For Leon, seeing Sherry again is a reminder of how much has changed since the Raccoon City incident. He was once her protector, but now Sherry stands as his equal, someone who has fought her own battles and come out stronger for it. There's a sense of mutual respect between them, and it's clear that Leon is proud of the woman Sherry has become. The once helpless girl he had to protect is now a capable fighter able to protect herself and others. She's also a representation that not everything was lost on that fateful night in 1998. Sherry emerged on the other side of that tragedy as a beacon of hope. She serves as a clear reminder that everything Leon did, everything he fought for and survived for, was very much worth it. This reunion not only highlights Sherry's personal evolution, but also Leon's maturity. He's no longer the idealistic rookie cop, but a seasoned veteran who knows the toll of their shared experiences. For Sherry, this moment is equally profound. Leon was one of the few people who truly cared about her during the fall of Raccoon City, and seeing him again must have stirred deep feelings of gratitude and nostalgia. But instead of leaning on him for support as she once did, Sherry is now standing beside him as a fellow soldier in the fight against bioterrorism. Their reunion is a powerful testament to the impact they had on each other's lives and how their shared past continues to bind them even as they move forward into new battles. It's a subtle but beautiful moment of connection between two survivors who have faced horrific tragedies head-on, yet still continue to fight for a better tomorrow. In RE6, Sherry also gets to meet Claire Redfield for the first time, the older brother of her dear big sister. While this encounter is not as significant as her reunion with Leon, it's still noteworthy because it shows how important Sherry was and still is for Claire, since she told her brother about the innocent little girl she encountered, protected, cared for, and ultimately saved on that night that upended all their lives. I'm sure Sherry realized all of this and it made her very happy. It's just a shame we don't get to hear her actually voice this. Sherry's evolution is far from over, and her story deserves to continue. Her unique background, her resilience, and her compassion make her one of the most compelling characters in the Resident Evil universe. While many characters have aged and grown, none have experienced the same depth of transformation as Sherry. From child to adult, from helpless to empowered. There's still so much potential for Sherry's story. How has her relationship with Jake developed? How has she continued to reconcile her past while fighting for a better future? And most importantly, how will she continue to evolve in a world still plagued by bioterrorism? Sherry Birkin is not just a survivor, she's a symbol of hope and growth. And her return in a future game could further cement her legacy as one of Resident Evil's greatest characters. With her extensive experience and her unique immunity to the G-Virus and the impressive healing ability it grants, Sherry is in a prime position to take on a larger role in the fight against the bioterrorism. Her connection with Jake in particular could be further explored, showing how two characters with such dark legacies can build a future that's not defined by their pasts. Plus, maybe we can finally see them as a couple. Sherry's return could also bring closure to many unresolved aspects of her character, allowing her to continue evolving in ways that make her one of the most fascinating characters in the franchise. Sherry Birkin's journey, her evolution, is one of the most remarkable in the Resident Evil universe. From a scared, innocent child lost in the chaos of Raccoon City to a strong, compassionate adult fighting to protect others, her fantastic evolution is a testament to endurance, growth, and the power of human connection. Her relationships with Claire, Leon, Jake, and even her mother, Annette, shaped the woman she became, each one leaving an indelible mark on her spirit. But what truly sets Sherry apart is how she turned a childhood of trauma into a life of purpose, proving that no matter the horrors we face, we have the power to rise above them and forge our own path. Her story isn't just one of survival, it's one of triumph over adversity. Sherry grew up in the shadow of Umbrella, surrounded by betrayal and pain. But she chose to fight for a better world. As we look to the future of Resident Evil, we can only hope that Sherry will return to continue her journey and her evolution, because her story feels far from over. Sherry Birkin, compassionate survivor, empathetic protector, caring fighter, forsaken child, innocence lost, endearing purity, deserving of love, from fear to courage, from darkness to light, from child to adult, from victim to hero. Thank you so very much for watching. Let me know how you feel about Sherry and why in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Resident Evil videos just like this one. Also, make sure to click the links on screen to check out some more videos that you will very likely enjoy.